There comes a moment in every life when you sense that something inside you is stirring, a restlessness that tells you there is more to who you are than the world has let you believe. You felt it in the silence of your room, in the ache of unanswered prayers, in the fleeting moments when peace touched you and then slipped away. You wonder why others seem content with the surface of life, while you long for something deeper, something truer. That longing is not an accident. It is the whisper of spirit, calling you to awaken. But here's the secret most people never discover. Not all who awaken are the same. Some doubt until the light fades. Some pray but keep fear clutched in their hands. Some think endlessly and never move. And a few, only a few, step into faith so completely that their entire world shifts around them. These are the 4 types of spiritually awake people, and once you know which one you are, you will never see yourself the same way again. So stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you won't just understand these 4 types, you will know which one has been guiding your life, and you will know how to step into the type that brings peace, strength, and freedom. Imagine ending this video not with heaviness, but with clarity, not with confusion, but with certainty, not with fear, but with a deep calm rising in your soul. That is the promise waiting for you here. Right now, across the world, there are millions of people who sense something stirring inside them, but only a few dare to ask the question, am I truly awake, or am I just going through the motions of life? Have you ever felt that pull, that quiet knowing that you see things others overlook, that you hear the whisper behind the noise? And yet, in that very same moment, you wonder why the world around you doesn't change as fast as your heart longs for. Here is the truth. There are 4 types of spiritually awake people. And until you know which one you are, you will always be stuck halfway between light and shadow. Stay with me, because this may not only reveal your place, it may show you the path you've been searching for all along. The first type is the doubter. He senses the spark, but smothers it with questions. He knows there is something beyond the surface of life, yet he convinces himself that it is too good to be true. He craves proof, demands signs, and because he doubts, he closes the very door through which God's light would shine. Perhaps you've been here yourself, testing the water, but never daring to step in. The danger of the doubter is subtle. It isn't that he lacks intelligence, it's that he lacks trust. He ties his faith to conditions, and because conditions always change, his soul never rests. Ask yourself, have I been living in that space? Half believing, half resisting? Then comes the second type, the worrier. The worrier prays, but with his lips only. He says the words, but his heart trembles with fear. He may sit in prayer, but leave still gripping the problem tighter than before. The worrier's tragedy is that he knows the truth, but refuses to release his hold on fear. And here lies the warning. To pray while clinging to fear is not prayer at all. It is building a prison with your own thoughts. Emmet Fox himself once warned, if you pray while still worrying, you block the very answer you ask for. Can you see it? The worrier lives as if God is small and his troubles are enormous. But the moment he inverts this, the moment he dares to say, God is bigger than my fear, the prison begins to crumble. The third type is the thinker. He takes what is simple and makes it heavy. He reads book after book, studies philosophy, chases complexity like it is wisdom itself. But in truth, he is tangled in his own mind. The thinker is always analyzing, always debating, always asking if he has it exactly right. And because of this, he misses the living stream of spirit that flows only in simplicity. The danger of the thinker is that he never surrenders long enough to let God act. He places himself in the position of judge and jury over spiritual law, forgetting that truth needs no defense. Perhaps you have seen this in yourself, wanting everything explained before you dare to believe. But in the realm of spirit, explanation follows faith, never precedes it. And then comes the fourth type, the believer. The believer is not without trials, not without questions, not without dark nights, but unlike the others, he has chosen trust as his foundation. He takes God at his word. He knows that divine law works, whether he sees it yet or not. The believer prays and releases, trusts and moves forward, forgives and finds freedom. His strength is not in perfection, but in surrender. And here is the truth that cannot be avoided. Until you shift from doubter, worrier, or thinker into believer, you will never taste the fullness of what awakening truly means. Which one are you? This is not a casual question. It is the mirror held to your soul tonight. Doubter, worrier, thinker, or believer. Each type is not just a description, it is a prophecy of where your life will lead if you stay there. The doubter circles endlessly. The worrier is consumed by fear. The thinker is chained by his own mind. But the believer moves forward into light, into peace, into victory. Do not just hear these words. Let them carve into your being. Write them down. Say them aloud. Claim your place. Now, let us deepen the stakes. What happens if you refuse to move from the first three? If you cling to doubt, you block every blessing waiting for you. If you cling to worry, you multiply the very problem you fear. If you cling to thinking without trust, you drown in your own mind. These are not poetic warnings, they are spiritual laws. They operate whether you acknowledge them or not. Just as electricity flows when the switch is on, so too does fear block when it is fed. To live in doubt, worry, or endless thought is to live against the current of life itself. But what happens when you stand as a believer? The atmosphere around you shifts, the doors of supply open, healing begins, the impossible bends. Not because you forced it, not because you begged for it, but because you aligned yourself with the law that was always working. The believer does not try to make God move. He moves himself into harmony with God. That harmony is everything. It is the difference between living in lack and living in flow, between endless struggle and quiet victory. Do you see now why Emmet Fox always returned to simplicity? He would say again and again, "You don't make the law work, you align with it." That one truth could carry you through every storm of life if you grasp it. And so tonight, let it be engraved into your heart. It is not about how much you strive. It is about how much you trust. The believer does not beg. The believer remembers. The believer does not fear. The believer rests. The believer does not argue. The believer knows. Now, I want you to plant a seed into your own subconscious. This is not mere affirmation. It is the engraving of law into your soul. Say this quietly with me, or write it where your eyes will see it each morning. I am one with divine life. I am guided by divine wisdom. I am fearless, free, and filled with light. Do not rush this. Let it breathe in you. Let it echo as the rhythm of your days. When worry creeps in, repeat it. When doubt whispers, declare it. When overthinking begins, return to it. For it is not repetition that gives power. It is conviction. This is the beginning of awakening. 4 types stand before you, and you must decide which one will define you. The choice is yours, but the law is clear. Thought is destiny. Think fear, and you live fear. Think truth, and you live freedom. Think doubt, and you stall. Think belief, and you soar. Which will you choose? For in the end, awakening is not about discovering who God is. It is about discovering who you are when you finally let go of fear and stand in faith. And when you begin to understand the hidden architecture of these 4 types, you realize that they are not random categories. They are stages of the soul's evolution. The doubter stands at the outer gate, sensing that something greater exists, but unable to step forward. He is like a traveler standing before a vast ocean, convinced that if he places his foot in the water he will drown, forgetting that the tide itself was made to carry him. The worrier stands a little closer. He dares to wade in, but every wave fills him with terror. He feels God's presence, but he cannot release his grip on fear, and so the water becomes his enemy instead of his support. The thinker builds boats of theories and rafts of philosophy. He maps the shoreline with words and diagrams, but he never launches into the depths. Only the believer steps forward and sails, because he knows the current is trustworthy. Which one are you right now? Which one have you been? Which one are you becoming? Every soul must pass through these gates. None are to be despised, for even the doubter carries the seed of belief. The tragedy is not in being a doubter, a worrier, or a thinker. The tragedy is in staying there. Life will bring you endless chances to graduate. Each problem, each sorrow, each unanswered prayer is not punishment. It is invitation. An invitation to rise from doubt to faith, from fear to trust, from analysis to surrender, and the test will always be the same. Will you lean on appearances, or will you lean on God? When you are told by the world that the problem is too great, the illness too advanced, the supply too scarce, will you echo the world's verdict, or will you dare to say, God is greater than this? Here is the paradox. The believer is not the one with the least questions, but the one who knows where to rest them. He does not deny his doubt, but he places it into the hands of Spirit. He does not pretend fear, never whispers, but he answers it with truth. He does not silence the mind with force, but he allows it to bow before something higher. The believer is the one who says, I do not need to understand everything, because I trust the one who understands all. That is why the believer is free. That is why his life opens like a flower, where others see only desert. Let me give you an example you will recognize in your own life. A doubter looks at a closed door and says, there is nothing beyond this. A worrier says, if I try to open it, what if it harms me? A thinker says, perhaps the door is symbolic, perhaps it leads nowhere, perhaps I should study its material. But the believer says, if God has placed this before me, then the way through is already provided. He reaches out, and the door that seemed sealed begins to move. This is not imagination. This is spiritual law. As you believe, so it is done unto you. Now ask yourself, in your daily struggles, which voice have you been listening to? When you faced the bill you could not pay, did you whisper, I cannot, or did you declare, God is my supply? When the doctor spoke a grim report, did you collapse into fear, or did you remind yourself, God is life, and life flows through me? When you felt misunderstood, betrayed, or abandoned, did you sink into resentment, or did you hold fast to the truth that love cannot be destroyed? Each of these moments reveals your type. Each reveals whether you are walking as a doubter, worrier, thinker, or believer. But here lies the secret. You are not locked into one type forever. Every moment you are choosing again. The law of spirit does not trap, it liberates. At any breath, at any second, you can shift. The doubter can become the believer by saying yes to trust. The worrier can become the believer by releasing fear. The thinker can become the believer by laying down complexity and embracing simplicity. Transformation is not a distant goal, it is a present decision. That is why awakening is always now, never later. Some of you are listening to these words and thinking, but I have doubted all my life. I have feared for years. I have analyzed until my mind is weary. Can I really become the believer? And I say to you, yes, 1,000 times yes. The moment you choose, the moment you decide, the shift begins. The past is no barrier to spirit. The weight of years cannot resist one instant of surrender. You are not defined by who you have been. You are defined by who you choose to be right now in this very breath, and the law will meet you where you stand. So tonight, I invite you to declare a new law for yourself. Do not whisper it timidly. Speak it with conviction, with the weight of eternity behind it. Say it so that your subconscious cannot ignore it. Say it so that every cell in your body hears it. Say, I release fear and embrace faith. I release doubt and embrace truth. I release complexity and embrace simplicity. I am a believer and I walk in divine law. Write this down. Repeat it until it becomes the rhythm of your thoughts. Let it echo until worry cannot stay. Let it saturate you until doubt dissolves. For this is not theory, it is practice. It is not knowledge, it is power. The believer does not wait for a sign to begin. He begins, and the signs follow. The believer does not say, one day I will trust. He says, I trust now. The believer does not hope that peace will come. He chooses peace now, because he knows peace is God, and God is always present. This is the secret that will make you more than a seeker. This is the secret that will make you awake. And so I ask again, which one are you? For the mirror is still before you, and it will not be put away until you choose. Doubter, worrier, thinker, or believer, your life tomorrow depends on the answer you give tonight. Say it aloud. Write it where you cannot forget. Claim it until it claims you. For once you step into the shoes of the believer, everything changes, not slowly, not someday, but now. And once you have seen the difference between these four types, the question becomes unavoidable. Why do so many cling to doubt, worry, and endless thought? when the path of belief lies open before them. The reason is simple: comfort. The doubter finds comfort in hesitation, for as long as he doubts, he never risks disappointment. The worrier finds comfort in fear, because fear gives him the illusion of control, as if worrying could change the outcome. The thinker finds comfort in endless analysis, because thought without surrender allows him to remain the master of his little kingdom. But all three comforts are illusions, fragile shelters that collapse in the storms of life. The believer alone walks in reality, for his comfort is not in illusion, but in God Himself. The believer knows something the others do not, that surrender is not weakness. It is the highest strength. To the doubter, surrender looks like blindness. To the worrier, it looks like recklessness. To the thinker, it looks like ignorance. But to the believer, surrender is alignment with the law. It is the recognition that he is not making the river flow, but only learning how to float upon it. The believer trusts because he understands that divine law never changes, and that aligning with it always produces peace and power. That is why his life is marked not by endless struggle, but by a quiet authority that cannot be shaken. Think for a moment of the storms you have faced. The doubter says, "The storm will drown me." The worrier says, "What if I cannot survive it?" The thinker says, "Let me calculate its size and chart its course." But the believer stands in the storm and declares, "Peace, be still." He does not do so because he denies the storm, but because he knows a law greater than the storm. He knows that God is life, God is truth, God is love, and therefore nothing can stand against the one who aligns with these realities. And as he speaks, the storm begins to break. This is why the believer becomes a light to others without even trying. His presence alone brings reassurance. People feel safer in his company, not because he promises easy answers, but because he radiates certainty. His words carry weight because they are not born from fear or speculation, but from trust. The believer's life itself becomes a testimony, a living scripture that whispers to the doubter, the worrier, and the thinker, there is another way. This is the mark of true awakening. It does not need to announce itself. It reveals itself in the quiet transformation of daily living. But let us not romanticize it. The believer also faces trials, setbacks, and dark nights of the soul. The difference is how he meets them. The doubter collapses, the worrier trembles, the thinker debates, but the believer leans in. He sees every challenge as an opportunity to prove the law, to strengthen trust, to deepen his surrender. He does not run from the test, for he knows that gold must pass through fire. And so, while others see disaster, the believer sees invitation. This is the very essence of faith, to see beyond appearance, to trust beyond evidence, to stand firm when all else shakes. Now ask yourself, how would your life change if you began to live as this believer? What would happen if, instead of running from difficulty, you met it with faith? What would happen if, instead of being paralyzed by fear, you chose trust? What would happen if, instead of drowning in thought, you let simplicity guide you? The shift would be immediate, because spiritual law does not delay. The moment you choose belief, you align with power, and that alignment changes everything: your health, your relationships, your work, your peace. Do not underestimate the power of this choice. You may think it is small, but it is the very pivot of destiny. One thought can turn an entire life. One decision can change a lineage. One moment of surrender can open a flood of blessings. The believer does not wait for proof. He becomes the proof. He does not demand signs. He becomes the sign. He does not cry for light. He becomes light in the darkness. This is the transformation you are being called into right now, not tomorrow, not after you feel ready, but now. Here is a law I want you to engrave in your heart. Write it down, speak it, carry it with you. I am not ruled by appearances. I am ruled by divine law. God's truth is my truth, and in that truth I am free. Let it be more than words, let it be identity. The next time fear rises, answer with it. The next time doubt whispers, declare it. The next time your mind spins in endless thought, stop and proclaim it. This is not just affirmation, it is alignment, and alignment with law always produces change. Remember, awakening is not about escaping life. It is about living it from a higher ground. It is not about hiding from problems. It is about seeing them in their true proportion beneath the immensity of God. It is not about running from yourself. It is about discovering the self that was always whole, always free, always one with Spirit. This is what the believer finds, and this is what is offered to you now. The only question that remains is, will you accept it? And so we step deeper into this journey, for awakening is not a single flash of light, but a steady unfolding, a dawning that grows brighter with each choice of faith. The four types are not merely portraits of people, they are stages within us all. Even the believer, though strong, must guard his ground, for doubt will return, worry will whisper, and thought will try to complicate the simple. This is the rhythm of spiritual life, not to escape the shadows once and for all, but to meet them again and again with trust. Awakening is not a finish line. It is a way of walking. It is choosing daily, hourly, sometimes moment by moment, to rest in God rather than in fear. Here is a truth most ignore. The doubter, the worrier, and the thinker are not enemies. They are teachers. Doubt teaches us that belief must be chosen freely, not forced. Worry teaches us that fear cannot coexist with love, and thus shows us the path toward release. Endless thought teaches us that intellect alone cannot carry us into spirit, that surrender must complete what knowledge begins. Each stage carries a hidden gift, and when you recognize it, you stop condemning yourself for your struggle. You see that even your hesitation, your trembling, your overthinking were stepping stones, drawing you closer to surrender. The tragedy is not in passing through them, it is in pitching your tent there. Consider how many remain in the camp of worry, circling the same problems year after year, praying but never releasing, hoping but never trusting. They believe they are being faithful, but in truth, they are feeding fear with their own energy. This is why Fox warned that to pray while still worrying is to block the very answer you ask for. Can you see the law at work? The worrier believes he is seeking God, but in reality he is magnifying his problem. The more he stares at it, the larger it grows. The moment he shifts his gaze, the moment he turns from the problem to God, the answer begins. And what of the thinker? He may appear wise, learned, respected. He may quote scripture, dissect philosophy, construct elaborate systems of thought. But unless he lays them down, they become chains of gold. They shine, but they bind. Spirit is simple, and only the simple can receive it. The thinker's salvation comes when he tires of his own mind, when he realizes that peace will never come by adding another layer of analysis. It comes only when he surrenders. It comes when he dares to believe that God's presence is more trustworthy than his own conclusions. Then, at last, the restless mind bows, and peace flows in. Let me show you how this works in everyday life. A doubter walks into a crisis and says, "There is no way." A worrier says, "What if I fail?" A thinker says, "Let me calculate all the angles before I move." But the believer walks in and says, "God is here." That one thought changes the atmosphere. It shifts the vibration of the room. It turns despair into possibility, fear into calm, confusion into order. Others may not understand why, but they feel it. That is the power of the believer. He does not merely change himself. He becomes a catalyst for change wherever he goes. The law is plain. As you think in your heart, so are you. Not as you think with your lips, not as you pretend with your outer words, but as you truly hold in your heart. This is why the believer's power is so strong. It comes from conviction, not performance. When he says, "God is my life, God is my supply, God is my peace," he means it. His heart echoes his words, and the law responds. Do not let this slip by you. It is not enough to repeat truth. You must feel it, embody it, live it until it becomes your very breath. That is why I urge you to take these laws and engrave them in your mind. Tonight, write this down and let it be your shield against the shadows. I turn from appearances and I rest in God. I do not argue with fear. I dissolve it with love. I do not chase answers. I let truth reveal itself in me. Say it aloud until your voice no longer trembles. Whisper it when you wake. Declare it before you sleep. The law does not respond to half-hearted hope. It responds to conviction, and conviction grows by practice. You may wonder, can it really be that simple? Can belief truly alter the course of a life? The answer is not theory, it is demonstration. Look back at your own past. Were there not moments when you trusted even slightly and doors opened? Were there not times when you chose peace instead of fear and the situation shifted? These are not coincidences, they are glimpses of law in action. If such small steps produced such results, imagine what would unfold if you trusted fully. Imagine what would happen if you chose to live as a believer, not just in moments of crisis, but as the rhythm of your entire life. This is what awakening truly means. It is not a single lightning strike that makes you forever perfect. It is the steady choice to trust the unseen more than the seen. It is the daily discipline of turning away from fear and toward love, from doubt to faith, from thought to surrender. It is the recognition that God is here always, and that to live otherwise is to live in illusion. And the one who understands this, the one who lives this, is not only awake, he is free. The time comes in every life when the choice between illusion and truth can no longer be postponed. You have lived long enough with the voices of doubt, with the prison of worry, with the chains of endless thought. The question is not whether you have known them. The question is whether you will continue to bow before them. Every day offers you a crossroad, and every thought is a decision. Will you live as though God is distant, or will you live as though God is here? Will you live as though fear has power, or will you live as though spirit is the only power? The answer you give in those silent moments determines whether you drift in circles or step into destiny. Understand this: awakening is not about collecting spiritual ideas. It is about transformation at the root of your being. The doubter may learn every doctrine, but without trust, his life remains small. The worrier may memorize prayers, but without surrender, his words are hollow. The thinker may master philosophies, but without simplicity, he misses the very presence he seeks. The believer alone is transformed, because belief touches the deepest part of the soul and rewires it. When you believe, you cease to live as a beggar before life. You live as a child of God, heir to an infinite kingdom. Picture the four types standing at the same locked gate. The doubter stares at the lock and says, "It cannot be opened." The worrier wrings his hands and says, "If I try, perhaps danger awaits me beyond." The thinker sketches blueprints of keys, argues about the structure of locks, writes essays about doors. But the believer kneels, places his hand on the lock and says quietly, "Father, thank you that the way is open." And with that gratitude the gate swings. This is not fantasy, it is law. Gratitude opens what fear closes. Trust unlocks what doubt seals. Simplicity breaks chains that complexity only tightens. Let this be engraved in you. Your outer life is only a reflection of your inner stance. If you walk as a doubter, your world mirrors uncertainty. If you walk as a worrier, your days echo fear. If you walk as a thinker, you live in endless cycles of speculation. But if you walk as a believer, life itself aligns to support you. People appear to help. Doors open in sequence. The impossible begins to yield, not because you forced it, but because the law responds to your trust. What you hold in consciousness becomes the stage upon which your life unfolds. Think of the power this gives you. No longer a victim of circumstance, no longer a slave to appearances. You become a co-creator with God. You are no longer asking the world to change first. You are changing the lens through which you see it, and the world rearranges itself in response. This is why Jesus declared, "As you believe, so shall it be done unto you." He did not say, "As you worry." He did not say, "As you doubt." He did not say, "As you analyze." He said, "As you believe." The law is clear, and it is eternal. So I ask you, are you willing to take this law into your own hands, into your own heart? Are you willing to stop circling the gates of doubt, fear, and thought, and step into the open field of trust? Do not wait for perfect conditions, for they will never come. Do not wait until you feel worthy, for you already are. Do not wait for another to confirm it, for the law does not need permission. It only waits for your decision. The moment you declare it, the shift begins. The river of life that has always been flowing rushes into your experience unhindered. Tonight, I want you to write down this declaration and let it mark the turning of your soul. I choose to live as a believer. I choose trust over fear, faith over doubt, simplicity over complication, God is here. God is my source, and I rest in His law. Speak it with the weight of conviction. Let it shape your thoughts until your thoughts shape your world. This is not imagination. It is law. The energy you carry becomes the life you live. The belief you hold becomes the truth you experience. Awakening is not a gift given to a few. It is the destiny of every soul. But destiny must be claimed. You must rise from your old identity, shake off the dust of fear, and stand in the radiant strength of spirit. The believer is not rare. He is simply the one who dared to say yes. Say yes tonight. Say yes until every fiber of you trembles with it. Say yes until doubt cannot survive, until fear has no ground, until thought bows to simplicity. For once you say yes, life itself says yes back to you, and the echo of that yes will carry you further than you ever dreamed. The great secret of life is that spirit will always meet you at the level of your belief. If you believe in lack, you will see lack multiply. If you believe in fear, you will meet shadows at every corner. If you believe in confusion, your path will twist endlessly before you. But if you believe in God's presence, then that presence fills every step of your journey. The believer understands this and shapes his life accordingly. He no longer asks, "What is happening to me?" but instead declares, "What I hold within me is shaping what happens around me." This shift is not abstract, it is practical, it is immediate, and it is powerful. The doubter cannot see this because he thinks belief is only a fragile emotion. He thinks faith means closing one's eyes and pretending. But real faith is not fragile, and it is not pretense. It is the strongest alignment with reality itself. For what could be more real than spirit? The worrier cannot see this because his eyes are fixed on appearances, trembling at shadows. But appearances are only surface, they shift like sand. The thinker cannot see this because he trusts his mind more than divine law. But the mind is a tool, not a master. Only the believer sees clearly, because he has chosen to trust what is eternal rather than what is temporary. Consider the law of prayer as Fox taught it. Prayer is not begging, it is aligning. To pray is to think with God instead of against Him. To pray is to lift the mind above the illusion of lack and declare the presence of abundance. To pray is to turn from fear and declare love as the only power. This is why the worrier's prayer fails. It is tangled with fear. This is why the doubter's prayer falls flat. It is poisoned with uncertainty. This is why the thinker's prayer misses the mark. It is cluttered with complexity. But the believer's prayer strikes true because it is simple, it is trusting, it is certain. If you want proof, you need not look far. Think of the times when you worried endlessly and nothing improved until you let go. Think of the moments when you doubted and opportunities slipped by because you would not act. Think of the hours you spent analyzing and how little peace it gave you. Then remember the few times you simply trusted, how doors opened, how peace returned, how strength rose in you. These are not coincidences. These are demonstrations. Spirit responds not to fear, not to doubt, not to endless thought, but to belief. This is why the believer carries authority. His words carry weight because they are aligned with truth. When he says, "Peace be still," it is not performance, it is reality speaking. When he says, "God is my supply," it is not wishful thinking, it is law in action. When he says, "I am healed," it is not denial, it is alignment with life itself. Do you see the difference? The believer does not use words as spells. He uses them as declarations of what already is. And because he knows, reality bends to that knowing. Now I ask you to take this into yourself. Tonight, speak this law aloud and let it echo into your bones. I am one with divine life. I am guided by divine truth. I am fearless, for God's love fills me now. Do not whisper it timidly. Say it with the strength of someone who knows he is not alone. Write it where your eyes can meet it daily. Let it be more than affirmation. Let it be identity. For when it becomes identity, it becomes destiny. Do not think this is too lofty for you. Do not say, "I cannot be a believer yet. I am too weak, too flawed, too broken." That is the lie of the worrier, the doubter, the thinker. The truth is this: belief is not perfection, it is surrender. Belief is not never falling, it is choosing to rise again. Belief is not mastering every truth at once, it is trusting the one truth that masters all. Anyone can begin. Everyone is invited. The only requirement is the willingness to say yes. So let this be the moment you say yes. Yes to trust. Yes to surrender. Yes to living as if God is here, because He is. Yes to releasing the chains of fear. Yes to laying down the weight of overthinking. Yes to dissolving the fog of doubt. Let your yes be firm. Let it be final. Let it be free. For when you say yes, you shift from seeker to finder, from prisoner to free soul, from sleeper to awake. And this awakening does not wait for tomorrow. It begins the instant you choose it. If you have walked with me this far, it is because a part of you already knows that you are being called higher. Doubt has had its time, fear has had its grip, endless thought has had its turn, but now you stand at the threshold of something greater. You have seen the 4 types, and you know that the believer is not just another category. The believer is the one who dares to step into truth and live from it. That is what awakening means. Not to dream of God as distant, but to know Him as present. Not to hope for peace, but to live in it. Not to chase love, but to realize you are already immersed in it. So take this message and let it become more than inspiration. Let it become a practice. Each time fear whispers, answer it with faith. Each time doubt presses, dissolve it with trust. Each time your mind spins in circles, return to simplicity. And when you do, you will see what Fox taught so clearly, that the moment you change your thought and remember God is here, the problem begins to dissolve. This is not theory, this is law. The law works unfailingly, and your only task is to align with it. Carry this with you. I am awake. I am free. I am one with divine life, guided by divine wisdom, fearless and at peace. Say it when the morning breaks. Say it when the night falls. Say it until it becomes the rhythm of your being. For when it is written on your heart, the world itself will begin to mirror it back to you, and you will find yourself living not as a doubter, worrier, or thinker, but as a believer, awake and unshakable. And now I leave you with this. The law is waiting for you to claim it. The Spirit is waiting for you to trust it. Your destiny is waiting for you to walk in it. Do not wait another day. The time is now. The door is open. Step through as a believer and never look back.